One of the cool things about abstract painting is that there's all different ways to apply the paint to the canvas. Today we're going to try making an abstract painting using a squeegee. When it comes to using the squeegee in abstract paintings, I've only used it once so far to make this painting you're looking at now. Basically what we're trying to do in this video is we're trying to do a similar style painting to this on a larger canvas and with different colors. So we're going to see if we can get similar results in different colors, and depending on how long that takes, maybe we'll do a second painting and we'll try and use the squeegee in a different way just to experiment with different techniques and to figure out how to use the squeegee to get great results. Let's go ahead and get this started. To start off with here, I want to show you the two different squeegees I'm going to be using for this painting. I got both of these at Home Depot. I actually did that in another YouTube video that I made a while back, so I'll go ahead and put that in the links down below if you want to check that out. Unfortunately, this was the smallest one I could find. I haven't really used this for anything yet. I think maybe I probably could get some cool textures out of that, but mainly I'm using the squeegee. Before we start here, let me give you some close-up of the colors. We have Blick Studio Acrylic Paint Metallic Teal. All acrylic paint here. Then we have Liquitex Basics Brilliant Blue. More Liquitex. This is Cadmium Red Medium Hue. And then finally we have the Prism Violet. After I did the last layer, I let this actually dry overnight, and there's still parts of the canvas showing through, so we're gonna add a few more layers to it and see if we can get some cooler patterns to emerge out of our swoops. So I'm gonna continue doing these sort of swoop motions to try and add more of this pattern in here, and we'll see what we can get. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I got that out of my system. I've been wanting to do that painting for a little while now. I've been wanting to do this video for a little while now. And if you enjoyed that painting sequence or that painting process, do me a favor, hit that like button. Really helps the algorithms let people know that people are enjoying this video. But the fact that you've watched this far helps the algorithm even more. So thank you for that. Don't take off yet. Before we end this video, there are a number of things I learned while making this painting that I want to share with you. So the first thing to know is when you are choosing your colors, if you're not familiar or aware of the various different color biases of the paints that you're using, you just need to be aware that color biases exist to begin with, so that way if you do combine two different colors that don't really mix to the outcome that you desire, you can recognize that and avoid using or mixing those two colors together. A good example of this is this shot right here, where I started to mix the cadmium red hue with the brilliant blue, and those two particular colors have biases in such a way where when they mix together they do not make purple, they end up making more of a brownish color. So that's something to be aware of and something to try to avoid if you're going to be selecting a number of colors that you have from your shelf, or however you're choosing your color palette. Just be aware of that so you know when to wait for the colors to dry or whether you can mix them together. Now on that note, in the very beginning of the painting, I started off with the brilliant blue hue and the metallic blue, and then before I started adding purple and red, I did actually wait for that layer to dry completely. That's one of the only layers that I actually waited for it to dry. Once I started adding the purple and the red, I did actually start just loading the colors on there and letting them mix together here and there, but definitely avoiding those particular colors that when they mix, they don't mix well. Either way, I did want to let you know that there were some layers where I did let the paint dry all the way before adding other layers. For you, that can be a personal choice, and it can also, again, depend on the colors that you're using on whether or not you want to do that. Another thing to be aware of when you go to make an abstract painting using a squeegee is the effect you get really depends heavily on the angle that you're holding the squeegee at and how much pressure you're putting down on the squeegee. So the more pressure you put, the higher the angle, the less paint you're going to leave behind. The less pressure, the lower the angle, the more paint's going to come off that squeegee edge and the more streaks you're going to get. The last thing that I noticed as well is the way to leave various different effects depends on how much paint you have on whatever side of the squeegee you're looking for the effect to go on. So let's say you're making a streak this way and you want the top streak to come out, but you want it to kind of taper off and have less paint down here. So obviously you want to put more paint towards the top and then have less paint towards the bottom, and you'll get a particular effect that you might find useful in your paintings. Another thing you may or may not have noticed me doing is throughout most of the painting, I was applying the paint directly onto the canvas and then coming through with the squeegee to squeegee it out. And then coming through with the squeegee to spread it out. When I applied the paint onto the canvas, I would come in with the squeegee and actually dab it onto the paint back and forth to kind of get the colors to mix up a little bit, so that way there wasn't just like a red streak and a purple streak. I wanted a little bit of a mixture in there. So if you notice in the very beginning of the painting when I first started and I didn't really have a good idea of what I was doing, in that very first shot, you saw the brilliant blue and the metallic blue, and then I came in with the squeegee and it left basically two stripes, which wasn't all that interesting unless that's the particular effect that you're going for. Me personally, I was just kind of experimenting. I wasn't really going for anything in particular. I was just waiting to see what would happen and what would emerge that I could work with and make look cool. And then finally, towards the end of the painting, I stopped applying the paint directly to the canvas and I started using my palette. So I would apply the paint in sort of a line here on the palette, and I'd come in with this, and I'd dab it around, and I'd load the paint up sort of the same way you would load a brush up. And I'd be very particular about putting whatever color or paint or whatever effect I wanted, heavier on one side than the other to get some of those effects that I was getting. Those were just a few things that I learned while making this particular abstract painting with a squeegee. It was only my second abstract painting made with a squeegee so far. There's definitely going to be more of that stuff to come in the future. If you are looking for any other abstract painting techniques to try, or you're just getting started on your abstract painting journey, check out my abstract painting playlist right here. Or if you would like to watch a video that YouTube recommends just for you, check out this video right here. YouTube's pretty smart. It knows what you like. I mean, look at that video. I want to click on that. I'll see you in the next one.